Good evening and welcome to the 2018 Cleveland International Hall of Fame induction ceremony. What a beautiful crowd. Give yourselves a round of applause. What a rich tapestry of people and ethnic cultures that make up Cleveland. My name's Chris Tanaka. I am an anchor for Cleveland 19 News. I'll be helping out with tonight's ceremonies in honoring these 6 individuals who have really made a difference in their communities, both greater Cleveland at large and representing their ethnic heritage in such productive, positive ways. So a round of applause for them before we begin. So as Dan so aggressively herded you to your seats to sit down at this time, would you all please rise so we could play the national anthem and the presentation of the colors. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Another round of applause. You may have a seat for the young boys and girls of the Horizon Science Academy's Junior ROTC Color Guard and that impeccable voice, William Clarence Marshall. Thank you, sir, for that rousing rendition of our national anthem. In case you haven't read William Clarence Marshall's bio, he is highly accomplished, incredibly talented. He's performed at the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, among others, the Jerusalem Music Festival, and others. Bravo. As I mentioned briefly before, my name is Chris Tanaka. I am an anchor for Cleveland 19 News, and I'm thrilled at the opportunity to be at this event at Dan's asking. So thank you, Dan, for having me here. I was born in a faraway place, like many people who live in Cleveland, and I've got a story that wraps around the world like so many others. And it's odd and maybe ironic that I wound up settling just about 10 streets down from where my dad was born and raised. I couldn't be happier to be in Cleveland, Ohio, in Northeast Ohio. And I've learned more about my dad just by living here because I realize some of those qualities he has as an individual, his iron will, his salt of the earth, integrity, and his willingness to do right by people. They're all part of what makes Northeast Ohioans and Clevelanders, because this is a place that's honest, it's gritty, people will look you in the eye and tell you the truth, and I'm so fortunate to understand my father just a little bit better, knowing how he was raised and where he's from. And the 6 people up here tonight, they are no different in that they have helped form and make their communities better but in a way that is unique to Northeast Ohio. Their communities have influenced them. Thank you all for being available here and representing your communities and yourselves, and this is just the start of what's going to be a wonderful night. If we may introduce, from west to east, left to right on the stage, this year's inductees, Sister Alicia Alvarado, Karen Pianka, who is accepting for her late husband, Judge Ray Pianka. Judge Ralph Perk Jr., please rise, sir. I got to say that to a judge. Sheila Murphy Crawford. Abdullah Abi Mina. And Dr. Atul Mehta. All of you know these individuals, either one of them, some of them, or all of them. But what they represent is not only great accomplished careers, but also service to their communities. We see the heritages of Puerto Rico, Ireland, India, Lebanon, the Czech Republic, and Italy represented up here, and obviously in the crowd. So thank you all for coming out and representing your own communities tonight as we honor these individuals. You're going to hear some great stories tonight, whether you know them as friends, co-workers, mentors, perhaps proteges, and what makes them tick, why they do what they do, how they serve their communities in such fashions. I can't wait, selfishly, to hear these stories because I feel we'll all leave this room tonight a little wiser, perhaps a little more caring, and certainly a little more alert to the communities around us that we may not know are there. So I can't wait to hear you all speak. One man I do want to hear speak right now is the man who is fortunate enough to let me be part of this event. Dan Hansen, one of the co-founders of the Cleveland International Hall of Fame, and of course clevelandpeople.com, along with his sister and mother, Debbie and Pat. Dan.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to have Chris here. You know, Chris isn't one of those guys who sits behind the news desk and just reads the news. He's out in the community, and that's one of the reasons we're such fans of Chris. Saw him at the Cleveland Asian Festival last year doing some MC duties and asked Chris to be involved in One World Day in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens last year, and he agreed. And it's coincidentally, he emceed the Parade of Flags with one of our inductees today, Sheila. So Sheila and Chris last year did the Parade of Flags at One World Day, and we're going to be hitting you up again for One World Day this year. But so Chris gets it. He's out in the community, not just behind the anchor desk, and we're really glad that you're here today, and we appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to thank some other people. Thanks to Sergeant Enrique de Jesus and the Color Guard from the Horizon Science Academy. I first heard William Clarence Marshall sing at the Opera in the Italian Garden several years ago, and he just blew me away. I've been a fan since. And he's got the kind of voice that he can read the phone book and make it sound awesome. So thank you, William. Hopefully we're going to hear from you a little later today also. I can't believe this is the 9th induction ceremony already. How many of you were at the first ceremony, 2010? Okay. How many of you been, have any of you been at all 9? Had a few, all right. Well, that's great. All right. It's amazing. So the way it goes tonight, we're going to have some remarks, an invocation from Pastor Grady, dinner, then we'll get into the inductions. And class, after the inductions, don't disappear because we always have a class photo over there. You guys are part of history now. You're the 9th class, and we'll set it up after and get you seated and get the photos. I do have to thank my sister Debbie in particular. She does all the grunt work. I get to stand up here. She worked very hard with the hotel to get as many of you seated with the people you wanted to and as good as tables as you could. It's not easy. Everyone wanted to be seated with certain people, and it just doesn't happen that way. So can we give Debbie a round of applause for all her work? We also have to thank our sponsors who have made the evening possible. Our platinum sponsors are Audrey and Albert Ratner and MAI Capital Management. Thank you. Our gold sponsors are the Murphy Irish Arts Center and a combination of Global Cleveland and Case Western Reserve University. Our silver sponsors are Joe's Deli and Margaret W. Wong and Associates. And then for table sponsors, we have Alex Machaski and Associates, the Cleveland American Middle East Organization, Cameo, the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Confucius Institute at Cleveland State University, International Community Council Worldwide Intercultural Network, that's a mouthful, Michael Miller, CPA, who, it's amazing, he's a board member, but this is tax day, and so for Mike to be here, that's a huge thing. And the Vietnamese Cultural Garden. Thank you to all of you. We want to thank our helpers tonight, Rich and Ruth Krepage. I think they're still out there. They're either at the workers' table or in the back there. And Rania Abadi, Olivia Ortega, Yulu Lee, and Monica Seja, who worked the registration with us. So thank you, ladies. I saw you somewhere. There you are. There you are. Our photographers, Anjan Ghost, Tim Ryan, Harry Weller, Ed O'Shaban, thank you guys. And we have to thank our mom, Pat Hansen. She's the glue who holds it all together. She was working the registration table, and she's back there. So just some more business. I'd like to call the incorporating board members up here so you can see and put a face to it. So Steve Owendoff, Mike Miller, Bill Carney, John Lewis, Debbie Hansen, would you come up? And while they're coming up, besides adding people to the board, our main tasks this next year, there are two tasks. One is to plan a killer 10th anniversary next year. So we want as many past inductees here. We want some special guests. We want to really do it up for the 10th anniversary. And we also are working, we have a committee for a physical presence to the Hall of Fame, a museum in a building or a space somewhere. So if you're interested in either of those committees or to help with the Cleveland International Hall of Fame, we'd love your input. See one of these people. This is Bill Carney. Bill, give him a wave. Steve Owendoff. He's a lawyer, but he's a good guy. I have to tease him all the time. Mike Miller. Tax day, Mike. I don't know how you did it. John Lewis. And Debbie's in the back there. Debbie, can you come up for a photo? While she's coming up, we'll... Got to make an entrance. So this, if you have any ideas for the Hall of Fame or you want to be involved in the 10th anniversary or the physical Hall of Fame, please see one of these people. Give me your information and we'll get back to you. As always, we like to point out a couple people. When we started 10 years ago, we took a chance and looked at some community leaders who knew about Halls of Fame and called Dick Pogue. Dick, are you here? Yeah. So here's the situation. I'm a nobody. I call up Dick Pogue at Jones Day and get a freebie appointment with him and got to pick his brain, and he gave all this advice and some really good advice, and he's been a supporter ever since, so we're always grateful for that, Dick. You know, only in Cleveland, I think, you get someone of the stature of Dick Pogue, speak to someone, an unknown, and help you out like that. So thank you, Dick. And the other person is Margaret Wong. And I don't know if she's here yet, but she's on her way. Just walked in? All right. So we'll wait for Margaret to come in. And if we could take a group photo, guys, of the incorporating board. Oh. Was I in? No. Photoshop me in. All right. Thank you. See, I had to get in the picture because... All right. Margaret, are you in yet? Okay. Margaret's out talking with my mother, which could be another half hour, so... Margaret, we were just thanking you as one of the earliest and best supporters of both ClevelandPeople.com and the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. You were there for us from day one, giving advice and support. She opened up her offices to us for events and has been there for everything from advice to support. So, Margaret, thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you. So I know you're hungry, and thank you, board. I'm going to hear about this at the next meeting. So I know you want to hear from these 6 amazing people, but I just have a few things I have to say before dinner. It's not easy speaking up here when everyone wants to hear them. And Sheila can tell you, I'm like the body at an Irish wake. You know, I'm needed in order to have the event, but no one really expects me to say much. So I'm going to try to keep it quiet like that, keep it short like that. As we wrote in the book, after 8 of these ceremonies, what we hear the most afterwards is, I was so inspired. And you're going to be inspired again tonight. Some people will say, I came to see Dr. Mehta, but then I saw what Sister did, and I was blown away. I'd never heard of some of these people, and they're blown away. And let me tell you a quick story. I won't say what year, but at one of our induction ceremonies, a guy, I will say it's a guy, but he's a prominent guy that most of you would recognize. He came up before the ceremony and he said, you know, I don't buy into this stuff. I don't really want to be here. I'm here to support my colleague, and he said the name. I said, you know, thanks for sharing. Okay, you know, what a great guy. So he went and sat down and did his stuff. After the last speech, he came rushing up to the stage. He goes, now I get it. I see what you guys are doing. I was inspired. I listened to those stories, and it changed my life. He goes, now I get it. So we expect some of you to have that feeling today. Most of the people in this room get it already. These people certainly get it. Most of you get it, but there's a few of you out there who are saying, you know, I don't want to be here. It's kumbaya and all that. But you're going to be inspired, and it's going to change your life. So that's one of the reasons we have the Hall of Fame, is to inspire a whole new generation of people to do the things that these 6 people have done. Let's see. These people are firsts, they're pioneers, they're keepers of the flame. Sister, I know that you would rather be with Francisco Lindor today, with watching the Cleveland Indians of Puerto Rico, where the weather is much better, but we're so glad you're here tonight. Many people have called Sister the madrina, the godmother of the community, but we like what Jose Feliciano called her. He bestowed on her the moniker, the patron saint of the Hispanic community. So, Sister, we're so glad you're here. Yeah, we'll get you a book. Sheila is having quite a year, quite a couple of years actually, but quite a year. This is the 40th anniversary of Murphy Irish Arts Center, which she started. Her Murphy Irish dancers won the World Championships in Montreal recently, with the last couple of years. A month ago to the day, she was Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade with 400,000 of her closest friends. And that was she was elected by all 28 Irish American groups in town. She's busy with the Cleveland Cultural Gardens Federation, where she's a immediate past president, One World Day, the Centennial, all that stuff, the Ancient Order of Hibernians. But on a personal note, some of you may know that this has been a tough year for my family health-wise. And in January, my mother and both my sisters spent about a month each in the hospital for pneumonia and flu and a couple of intensive care episodes and all that. So it was a tough month, and I'd come home, and Sheila kept in frequent contact. But what was really cool, several times I'd come home and there'd be a package on the porch, and it'd be a full dinner from Sheila, and I knew that it wasn't another McDonald's night. So that was really appreciated. That's the kind of person Sheila is, and we're really glad you're here tonight too, Sheila. Dr. Mehta, we've called him the LeBron James of pulmonary medicine. You all know the LeBron James. He has the chops. He's the greatest of all time. He's brought great recognition to the city of Cleveland. And outside of that, taking his talents to South Beach, which I hope you never do, a great guy. So Dr. Mehta has the chops. He's a worldwide reputation as a pulmonary clinician, academic authority, and teacher. And he has brought international respect to the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Clinic in particular. He's a part of APNO, the Association of Indian Physicians of Northern Ohio. The APNO people here, you got to learn about this organization. They do great work. their medical yatras and other work. I know some are here. Geeta Gidwani, I know you're here. Dr. Jaya Shah, I know you're here. Where's APNO? Would you? Well, after dinner, try to find the APNO people. There you are. There's Geeta. And okay. They do great work, and Dr. Mehta is an example of that kind of work. So we're thrilled he's here today. Abby Minna. Abby was born in Lebanon, a small town in Lebanon, but he represents the entire Arab American, Middle Eastern background community, not just Lebanese. He, through his Arabic radio show, he's reached that community. He's been a president and a leader in many Middle Eastern organizations, and countless, hundreds, thousands maybe, of people who have come here have had it easier, come here from the Middle East, have had it easier because of Abby, and people who are of Middle Eastern heritage have had a richer life here because of Abby's work. So thank you much. Ralph Kirk, you know, what big shoes to fill. When your father's mayor, Ralph Kirk, superstar, inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2011. Rocky, you are the first father-son, parent-child combination in the Hall of Fame. So that's another first for your resume. You can read all their bios in the book and on the web, but Rocky's service, or everyone calls him Rocky. Rocky's service as president of the American Nationalities Movement is maybe more important than ever now, because a lot of people think when the Soviet Union fell, all those problems went away. But if you ask the people in the room from Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Ukraine, Poland, places like that, you know there's real threats out there today still. And what the American Nationalities Movement does, what Rocky and Irene Morrow and the group do, they remind people about the captive nations and how freedom is just as easily taken away as you gained it with the fall of the Soviet Union. So thank you, Rocky, for all that you do. And then finally, it's tragic that Ray Pianka can't be here today. His untimely death last year is a shock, a terrible shock to all who knew or knew of him. He's a paragon of public service. The things he did in the neighborhoods and the people, you got to read about him in the book or on the website. He's just an amazing guy who really cared about the people in the neighborhoods. I have a favorite memory of Karen and Ray. It was a couple of years ago at Polish Constitution Day parade. And Ray was the Grand Marshal, and you and Ray and Karen were sitting in a carriage, with horse-drawn carriage, and Irene Morrow was in the carriage, and they were surrounded by their friends, Tony Brancatelli and Gene Bach, Eugenia Stolarczyk and the Kotlarczyks, and Ben Stefanski and Ed Ribke, and I'm going to forget people. But that's how when I think of Ray, I think he was grinning from ear to ear. It was a great memory. And for your own memories, when you drive through Detroit Shoreway, Gordon Square, Slavic Village, any of those neighborhoods, think of how much richer they are, the people are in the neighborhoods because of what Ray Pianka did, and how poor we all are now because of his passing. So, Karen, we're so glad you're here. We feel terrible that Ray's not, but thank you for being here. So 6 great inductees, and I'm just about done here, but we have many previous inductees here tonight, and I'd like to recognize them, so please stand when I call your name. Representing Alex Machaski, who is traveling, is son Lex Machaski, who you may follow in Rocky's footsteps and be a future father-son duo. So Lex for Alex Machaski. Dr. Anthony Yen. August Pust. Bob Haas, the German community. Dick Pogue. Eugenia Stolarczyk. Right next to her, Gene Bach. Jerry Quinn. Yawa Ryan. Representing Helen Karpinski, daughter Judge Diane Karpinski. Irene Morrow. Dr. Jaya Shah, Jim Creation, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Meisner, Jose Feliciano. Next to him, Judge Villanueva, Ken Kovach, Margaret Wong, Maria Puhana, Mary Rose Okar, Paramjit Singh. We could say Ralph Perk Sr., represented by Rocky. Ratanjit Sande. Tom Scanlon. And sadly, Dr. Mohan Bafna passed away in November, but his son Suresh Bafna is here, so representing Dr. Bafna, Suresh Bafna. Did I miss any Hall of Famers? I hope not. Oh my God. Dr. Whale Khoury, who's, oh man. Dr. Khoury came in last year. He's the president of the Cleveland Cultural Garden Federation, president of the Cleveland Council on World Affairs, does a million other things, and I apologize for that. Another round of applause for Dr. Khoury. I'm sorry about that. All right, Chris, I think that's my cue to shut up, because making mistakes like that, you're going to get booted anyway. So why don't you take over for me?
Quick little story before we have our Pastor Grady Stevenson come on up. I was actually speaking with the director of event planning for the Marriott Key Center downtown earlier, Cal Elaban, and he was saying that the Grand Ballroom, which we're all in right now, just finished a floor-to-ceiling renovation approximately 5 weeks ago. So we were all one of the first groups to be able to enjoy this nice renovation, and all of the hard-working people who are now bringing dinner out to all of you. So another debt of gratitude to be paid for all of our blessings and all the good fortune we receive. Dinner about to be served, but before that, a brief blessing from Pastor Grady Stevenson, who is the interim director of the City of Cleveland's Community Relations Board. Among other things, he oversees community outreach and crisis intervention. Pastor, thank you, and come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Let us pause for a moment as we pray over this great occasion and bless this food. Our God and our Father, the creator of all mankind, as we stand here in your presence today, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity to sit amongst great people, people that you have blessed us with here in our lives to do great things. We thank you, but God, for this occasion that you have set up, that we can honor those who deserve to be honored. And then, Father, most of all, we ask that you would bless this food. Bless this food that you have given us, that will give our bodies nourishment for the reason that we take it in for. And then, Father, bless the hands that prepared it. Bless all that partakes. Bless this great occasion. And we'll be careful to lift you up and give you praise. This we ask in your Son's name. Thank God, and amen.
Hi, I'm Mayor Frank Jackson. You've probably seen media coverage of the growing opioid epidemic in northeastern Ohio. But what you might not know is how many of these tragedies begin with a seemingly innocent prescription for pain medication. That is why we're teaming with the Cuyahoga County Opiate Marketing Task Force to encourage you to know the risk. Go to the website on your screen to learn which pills are opiates and alternative ways of dealing with pain. Which starts as a prescription can end with addiction, so know the risk.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Clarence Marshall, and my story is not unlike many of the stories in this room. I'm originally from the Philippines. To look at me, you may not see that until you see my wonderful mother. The Philippines, my great-grandfather is from Cairo, and he came to this country back in about 1820. That's about right, 1820. His name was Edward. And Edward came to Georgia, of all places, and that's a mystery to me, why he would come to Georgia in the middle of a peculiar American history. So that being said, the song that I want to sing is called Hark from the Winds. Now, Hark from the Winds is not a particularly happy song. It's engaging, but it would make us think about our peculiar status in this country. So it goes like this, and it's probably a good idea just to close your eyes and imagine the story that I'm about to tell. Hark from the winds, a voice of woe, the wild Atlantic in its flow bears on its breast the murmur low, my child is gone, no longer now till eve I see beneath the sheltering plantain tree my baby cradled on my knee, for he's gone. I sing to sleep, then hear his parting scream. I stop and wake, 'tis but a dream. My child is gone, gone till my griefs are o'er, and I shall reach that shore where Negro mothers cry no more. My child is gone. Thank you.
I told you about that voice. Now, I just have to ask the audience one question here. How many of you, when I was saying the previous inductees of the Hall of Fame, heard me mention the name Mona Alag? Raise your hand if you did. I think she's pulling a fast one on me here because Mona in her table says you skipped me, you didn't mention me. So if that's true, Mona Alag, yes, member of the Hall of Fame. So congratulations, but I think you pulled a fast one. I know I said your name. And now just before Chris comes up, if we could have the wait staff and chefs, any of you who are here, we'd like to thank you for your service today. Want to come up? Come on to the front. You're supposed to. Well, at least you two. We appreciate it. You did a great job. Here we got some still walking around here also. Come on out. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Anxious to have. Okay, Chris.
Everyone enjoying themselves tonight so far? It's been a good evening, right? And the best is yet to come. One of the missions, Dan, you said this, of the Cleveland International Hall of Fame is to inspire young leaders, correct?
Correct.
You know what young people do when they're having a good time? They take selfies. Thanks for indulging me in that. All right, so how do you get into the Cleveland International Hall of Fame? Well, you get nominated. You can nominate yourself. It's a process that is judged upon by the directors and the boards based on your accomplishments, based on your volunteerism, activism within your community. The criteria is in the books that you have all received tonight if you care for the deep dive. But the short story is that all these people were nominated by others who know them intimately, are familiar with their work, familiar with their efforts, and familiar with their personality and their personas and all they've done for their communities. So these people are esteemed by their colleagues, they are esteemed professionals, and they're esteemed in the community themselves. If you would like to see someone nominated, then by all means, please nominate them. If there is someone from an ethnic community that you may feel is underserved or isn't in the spotlight, then step forward. This is a celebration. This isn't a competition. And all the people who are up here represent their ethnic communities proudly. And the Cleveland International Hall of Fame is always open and wanting more ethnic groups, more multiculturalism to be celebrated and honored and promoted here in Cleveland. Dan?
Yeah, the way this is going to work, thanks, Chris, you explained it perfectly. We will call up, we're going to go in alphabetical order, because no one can argue with that. Now, we were talking before, we've had Yens and Wongs, and the other end of the spectrum, we've had Hoojas, and from A to Y. So it's easiest just to go alphabetically, so that's how we'll do it tonight. There are 150 worthy inductees, nominees this year. Gets whittled down by the previous inductees, whittled down, whittled down, whittled down. So when you get to these 6, not only is it a very hard decision, but it shows how impressive their accomplishments are. Read about them in the book, read about them more on the websites. The inductors tonight are not going to give you a bio. We've stressed that. They're going to tell stories maybe, and then what's going to happen, we'll call up an inductor. Debbie, Chris, and I will alternate, and they will induct the person, give them their award. You'll step here, get photos, paparazzi will get you here, and then the new member of the Hall of Fame will give their speech. So we're going to go alphabetically, and that means I get to go first and call up Jose Feliciano. Not so fast, El Jefe. Jose himself is a 2012 inductee of the Hall of Fame, the first Hispanic public official in the history of the city of Cleveland, a White House fellow under the Reagan administration. He's practiced law and led the Puerto Rican and broader Hispanic communities for decades, and he has earned the title that his son is called to him of El Jefe. So let's get the boss up here to induct sister.
Yes, I know there's a singer by that name. All right, okay. But in any event, I count it a joy and a privilege to introduce my dear friend of more than 60 years. You heard that right, more than 60 years, Sister Alicia Alvarado. And I'm happy to do that on behalf of our community, especially my organization, the Hispanic Roundtable, that's sitting right over there. And, well, I'm only going to be able to scratch the surface of her accomplishments and character. I'd like to give you a little flavor of the life of this dynamic young Latina, Sister Alicia Alvarado. So let me give you a brief description of what I hope to cover here, that she's a faithful servant of her God and King. She's the first daughter of the Hispanic community, servant leader, grassroots leader par excellence, and a friend to all, especially the poor. Sister was born in Puerto Rico. She grew up on the near west side of Cleveland on West 31st Place. She attended St. Patrick's School, where she was educated by the Ursuline nuns and influenced by the Jesuit priests. and that's where she got her initial call to the sisterhood. She was the devoted child of her mother, Doña Rosa, and Don Felipe, and her brothers and sisters, especially her developmentally challenged sister. But her guiding principles and priorities were always God first, her family second, the poor, the needy and the weak in the community were third, and Alicia was last, always a distant last. In our community, she was involved in let me underline, every major Hispanic organization and initiative. Let me give you a little flavor. So she began her involvement with the Puerto Rican Club PR 76, and then she went to the Spanish American Committee and always was one of the principal leaders there. And she served there for decades, serving the underserved. Incredible how that happens, right? Where she always served the underserved and for food, housing, and work. In 1984, what was then the Hispanic Forum, now the Hispanic Roundtable, she helped convene the entirety of our community at St. Ignatius High School, where we set our first agenda. So I remember in 1984 those many late nights in the Justice Center in my former office, in the City of Cleveland Prosecutor's Office with Judge Jose Villanueva, with Jose Pena and Sister Alicia, and trying to plan our event. And I can remember always saying to Alicia, how do we know anyone is going to come? And she always assured me, she said, my people will come. And they did. And so at this first event at Ignatius, we had thousands of people that showed up. And the person that's most responsible for that initial success was sitting right over here. And they came because Sister Alicia Alvarado asked them to come, because there's no better community organizer in this community, because of her big love, because of her big heart, and the love of our community for Sister Alicia. But a little flavor for this historic accomplishment, and just to digress a little bit, but among the first things that we did there was that, and Alicia was a big supporter of this, was the Hispanic Scholarship Fund, which is Esperanza, which today gives more than 100 scholarships. And it is one of the largest Hispanic scholarship programs and the most successful in this country, and a person that has made as big a contribution as anyone is sitting right over there. So that community participation and tradition exists to this very day. And the Plain Dealer at our last convention reported we had 3,000 people. 3,000 people attended. And that approximate cause of that is sitting right over there. I mean, that is such a big deal that you know who goes there? Dick Pogue. Pogue goes over there. That's how big that is. So, anyway, Sister Alicia loves her culture. And I'm reminded of the Puerto Rican composer Rafael Hernandez, who said, if I had not been born Puerto Rican, I would have wished to have been born Puerto Rican. And anyway, that's Sister Alicia. And it's a core sentiment in Alicia's life. So she loves our food, the rice and beans, the pernil, the arroz con pollo, the pasteles, the flan, empanadilla, morcilla, and asopao. That's just her start. But that has to be associated with music, principally in merengue and salsa, and dancing. And boy, can that girl dance. So you've heard of the flying nun and the singing nun, but you're shortly going to meet the dancing nun. She's always had a profound sense of social justice, and that was manifested with her work with the beloved and historic Cesar Chavez. in his efforts and their efforts to, on behalf of the farm worker movement, to help them attain a decent life for all farm workers throughout America. When Chavez was here, Sister drove him throughout the entire state, and she was Cesar Chavez's chauffeur. And Cesar Chavez used to refer to her as his bodyguard here in Ohio. And she played a significant role in Cleveland politics. She was intimately involved in Carl Stokes' 2 elections. Stokes, of course, was the first African-American mayor of a major city in America. Moreover, she campaigned and worked and principally was responsible for the election of Joe Santiago and served admirably as his administrative assistant. But she also shared her gifts with her Dominican sisters, where she served on their national board as well. And that is as a result of her humility, her leadership gifts, and her love of the Lord. About 10 years ago, she suffered a massive stroke. And I remember seeing her at the rehab facility in the fetal position and unable to speak. And truthfully, I did not believe that she was going to survive. But there are modern-day miracles. And God, in His goodness, gave her back to us because He still had more for her to do. But let me finish with a couple of scripture quotes that come to mind when I think of Sister Alicia. The first is in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy. You shall walk after the Lord your God, and you shall serve Him and hold fast to Him. And from my end of the Testament, James 2, but what good is it, my brothers, if someone says that he has faith, but he does not have works? If your brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to him, go in peace, be warmed and filled without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? God has a special focus on the poor, and the words of the evangelist Luke were guiding principles in Sister Alicia's life. What you've done for the least of my brethren, you've done for me. So she has lived her faith and served our God by serving others. So let me give you this great servant leader, this patron saint of the Hispanic community, this bodyguard, this friend to all, especially the weak and the poor, the dancing nun, Hermana Alicia Alvarado.
Thank you, everyone. I personally, from the bottom of my heart, would like to thank everyone here for your presence this evening among other inductees. But like Jose said, God is first on my list of thanks. And then comes my parents, and he mentioned my parents, which were very instrumental in my life, Felipe and Rosa Maria, who are now deceased. May they rest in peace. Who taught me everything from early childhood that service to others is the most important thing to do in our lifetime. Our home was full of faith and love, joy and care, and compassion for others. We have families passing through the city that needed a place to stay, and our home became that place. It was a house full most of the time with our pets. It was like a zoo. I would like to thank all the people that helped me during my illness, which Jose mentioned, from a traumatic brain injury on May 21st. It'll be 10 years in 2008. An aneurysm that almost took my life. I want to thank my siblings present here for your undaunted love and support during that time and to this day. I love you and gracias. And I would like my siblings to stand wherever you are. My brothers and sisters, gracias for being here. I want to thank all my dedicated friends that I have had all these years, too many to count. I want to thank my sisters and community, the Dominican Sisters and Associates of Peace, for your continued support in all the ministries I took on. Thank you. There are some sisters with me here tonight. Please stand. My religious sisters. Lastly, I would like to thank Deborah Hansen and the Cleveland International Hall of Fame and Dan for all you did to get me here, and you continue to do for others that will come after us. May you all have a safe trip back home. May the peace of our gracious God go with you. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, each inductee will receive their award and their coveted Cleveland International Hall of Fame pin, which you see a lot of the previous inductees wearing, and various proclamations from Cleveland City Council, from Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson, from Senator Rob Portman, from Congresswoman Marcia Fudge. And it's kind of funky, but different state reps and state senators and all have specific proclamations for specific people. So you might not all get the same ones. You'll get those basics I mentioned, but our, County Executive Armin Budish was here earlier and dropped off his. So we'll give you this stuff. And
can I just say about Sister Alicia, I got an email from her saying, you know, I'm expecting to see Sister Bertrill and all that here, you know, with the. And she'd send me an email saying, I got my outfit, I've got a flower for my hair, I've got a flouncy skirt, so if I'm dancing, it'll move with me. Okay, well, as you can see, waiting in the wings there, it's our next inductor. The Irish American community is so proud to have Jerry Quinn as part of it. He's a 2012 inductee of the Hall of Fame. He's been on the air doing Irish radio for 30 plus years. 30 years. You'd think in that time he'd run out of things to say. He's a founder of the Cleveland Irish American Club East Side, which is, you know, special to me. And in he did that in 1978, and he co-founded the Mayo Society here in Cleveland in 2004. Even those of us that are not from County Mayo appreciate what a great thing that is. And you might want to check out the Mayo Ball. It's a wonderful event. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Jerry Quinn.
First, let me say thank you, Debbie and Dan Hansen, for founding this wonderful organization. I've been here every year since it was founded, and I was very honored to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011. The Mayo Society, just a slight correction, it's 20 years old actually, but we became a 501c3 in 2004. You know, Debbie said I was 30 years on the radio. We're actually started our 39th year. So we're getting old, some of us. I don't know if I have any of the original listeners left or not, but it's a joy to do. And a lot of people say to me often, they say, do you ever get nervous? And I said, I do, especially when I have to speak in public like this to 500 people. And they say, you've been on the radio for 39 years. That's a little different, you know. Television, of course, is much easier. Chris will tell you that. Right, Chris? Anyway, it reminds me of a young priest that was very nervous about giving his first sermon. So he said to the old pastor, he says, you know, I'm so nervous. Next Sunday, I have to give my first sermon, and the bishop is going to be in the congregation. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, the priest says, it's very simple. All you have to do is to get the attention of the congregation, and it's plain sailing from there. He says, watch me. So the old priest got up to give a sermon. First thing he said was, some of the best years of my life were spent in the arms of another man's wife. There was dead silence, just like there is here now. And then he paused, and he went on to say, of course, that woman was my mother. And there was a sigh of relief. So anyway, the young curate saw that, and he says, God, that's wonderful. I'm going to try it next Sunday. Following Sunday came, he started off, some of the best years of my life were spent in the arms of another man's wife. And he looked out and he saw the bishop and he froze. He couldn't think of anything. His mind was completely blank. And after what seemed like a long time, he blurted out, and right now I can't remember her name. So that was it. Thank you. We are here this evening to honor some of Northeast Ohio's finest citizens. I am privileged to be asked by our hosts to introduce one of these honorees. Now, I'm not going to repeat to you what's in the program book, because I'm sure all of you have read it. But I want to tell you about a personal story. I'll tell you about the first time that I met Sheila Murphy Crawford. It was the summer of 1961, a long time ago. I had just arrived from Ireland and was being shown around the city by my cousins. And where do you think they took me? First place, they took me to the Irish Cultural Garden. And there they introduced me to the Murphy family, who happened to be working there, weeding, planting flowers, and doing what the Murphy family are still doing today in the garden. And that was Sheila, her mom, her dad, her sister, and her brother. Now, it is easy to see how the great parental influence shaped the person that we see here, we are honoring here tonight. Now, I think you all know, if you read the program book, that Sheila is a school teacher. And I've had her on my radio program several times. And we talk about education, and we talk about English, and we talk about Irish poetry. And one of her favorite pieces of poetry, and mine, it just happens to be mine, is something that was written by William Butler Yeats way back in 1906. And it's called The Clots of Heaven. I don't know if any of you ever heard it or not. And it goes like this. Had I the heavens embroidered clots, and wrought with gold and silver light, the blue, the dim, and the dark clots of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the clots under your feet, but I, being poor, have only my dreams. I would spread my dreams under your feet. Walk softly, because you tread on my dreams. That's Sheila and I's favorite poem. I've said it many times on the radio. She loves it, and she loves William Butler Yeats. But the other thing about her is, this is a lady that is always giving, always organizing, always caring about our community. We value her commitment to the Irish community. But all of us know that her valued friendship and goodwill is the one thing that we value most. Sheila, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for all that you do for the Irish community. We love you dearly, every one of us. Thank you.
It won't be the first time, Jerry. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jerry, for the beautiful introduction, and we truly have been friends for a long, long time. I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees. The accomplishments, the hard work, the service to your communities has just been marvelous, and it is an honor for me to be inducted with you. Congratulations to all of you. I'd like to thank Debbie and Dan Hansen, number one, for steadfastly working on linking the diverse ethnic communities of Cleveland and making the connections to bring us together, and for establishing the International Hall of Fame. We owe them a tremendous debt. Thank you so much to both of you for your hard work. And to my husband, who's sitting over there, Bob Crawford. Come on, Bob, stand up. As most of you know, I wouldn't be anywhere without Bob. We both work together on all of our activities, and without his support, it wouldn't happen. To my family and friends who came today to celebrate this great event and who always support me in my efforts, no matter whether you think I'm crazy or not, they're always there, taking the ideas, moving forward, and always listening to me say, don't worry, it'll be easier next year, right? Right. To the members of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens and to the members of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, thank you so much for your continued support and your friendship and faith. It means so much to me. The Murphy Irish Arts Center is the Irish dance school I started 40 years ago. And I decided on the name Arts because we wanted to promote more than just traditional Irish dancing. A lot of what service I've done has come from my parents, as Jerry suggested. And my grandfather danced when he came here from Ireland. And from that point, my mother wanted one of her children to take Irish dance. And I was the one lucky enough to get the lessons. And I've now been teaching Irish dance for 40 years. I've had thousands of students come through our center. And it's provided much more than just teaching Irish dance. But it's been an opportunity to promote Irish culture to them. It's been an ability to develop and grow and make them use their talents to inspire them to do better than they ever thought they could, to even get to the World Championships. And the Murphy Irish Arts Center and our dancers brought a World Championship to Cleveland before the Cavs did. And when we get to St. Patrick's season, which for us is the whole month of March, we do over 40 shows. And we take our students out and we dance primarily at nursing homes and senior citizen buildings all across Cuyahoga County. And I teach the children to give back their talents, to respect their older citizens, to learn how important they are. And after we finish dancing, the students are encouraged to go out and individually shake their hands and let them touch their costumes and let them say hello. And it's such an important part of what we do that it's much, much more than just teaching dance. And in addition, we get to the opportunity to inspire them to achieve enough that they can actually get to the World Championships. You have to qualify. You have to go through an awful lot of effort. And then we get to take hundreds of people to Ireland with us, as we've done over 40 years, and show them our beautiful country. And many of our students decide then to go to school abroad because they're now comfortable with travel and foreign life. But most of all, they learn to love Ireland, and they frequently go back, which is the goal. So we've had a wonderful run for 40 years, and hopefully we'll go on for a lot longer. But it isn't a one-person act. Without all the teachers that I have and the wonderful support of our parents, who really volunteer so many hours to make all of our activities happen, we wouldn't be successful at all. So thank you to all of you. And going back to Jerry's story, meeting him in the Irish Garden in 1961, I used to go to all the cultural garden meetings, and I tell people about this, and they I think they believe me, but I'm not quite sure. But I've been going to meetings for over 50 years. As I was a child working in that garden, I used to go to the meetings with my mother because she was the Irish delegate, and we would have meetings in the Red Room at City Hall, and I've been with almost every president of the Cultural Gardens except for the first two. And so going back to Sig Brinsky, sitting in the Red Room in the mayor's office with a big cigar out of his mouth and running his meetings, etched a memory I'll never forget. And going on through the future to Richard Konashevitz and Clay Herrick and Paul Burek, who's here tonight, and our new president, Dr. Wild Curry, and of course, our new executive director, Lori Ashik of the Cultural Gardens. We're continuing on a trend of development and growth for the Cultural Gardens that I think is just fantastic, so I appreciate all of them coming. We've seen a tremendous growth. We celebrated our 100th anniversary in 2016, and the Cultural Gardens are so unique. We are symbolic, we are historic, we are an artistic treasure of the city of Cleveland. And I want to thank Mayor Jackson and our city councilmen who are here tonight and our Cuyahoga County officials for continuing to make Cleveland a place that honors diversity and encourages ethnic pride. That is so important to all of us. Cleveland is a different place because of the ethnic groups that are the fabric of our city. And when you look at our festivals and our churches, our music, our plays, our dance, our civic and cultural organizations, and of course the Cultural Gardens, you can see all of that flourishing in a wonderful harmony. So the whole group of people of Cleveland who come from different ethnic backgrounds have really made Cleveland what it is today. And all of you who are here today are tremendous examples of that, where you volunteer and you inspire the younger generations to do the same. That's how I learned to volunteer, and I'm hoping that that's how the younger generations are going to continue all the hard work that we've done. So I thank you all for doing that. It's so important to model, not just to tell someone to do something, but to actually do it yourself and work with them side by side. It will make so much more of an impact than simply giving directions. So I want to ask you to support the Cultural Gardens. All of us here today belong to it. There's a garden you can join and represent and work for. I encourage you to come to One World Day. It's September 16th on Sunday, and be part of a glorious celebration of all that makes all of our homelands absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much. All of you, this community of diverse backgrounds has brought richness and success and true joy to our city of Cleveland. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee, Dr. Atul Mehta, will be inducted by Richard Boncourt. He's the managing partner of MAI Capital Management LLC. That's a full-service wealth manager dedicated to creating a culture that promotes collaboration, innovation, and places a high priority on attracting, developing, and retaining experienced individuals in order to deliver the best possible service to their clients. Quite the sell. Richard.
First of all, can you all join me congratulating all these great inductees tonight? It's my great honor and privilege to be the one to induct Dr. Atul Mehta. I'm probably the least deserving of that honor, but I'm certainly the most appreciative. Lori and I, my wife and I, got to meet Dr. Mehta only 4 years ago, but I feel like I know him my lifetime, and I know I owe him my future lifetime. From the moment I met him, you read all about his pulmonary accomplishments. I don't want to spend any time on that. He truly is the LeBron James of the pulmonary business, but he is a better person than he is pulmonologist. He is the most caring, loving person that I've ever met in my life. His wife, Shuva, is here in the audience tonight, his beautiful daughter, his son-in-law, his son, and his son's future wife, and more importantly, his little granddaughter, Coco, is here tonight. But this man is truly, when you look in the dictionary, I had Webster's dictionary out this week, and I turned to doctor, and his picture's there. And because he is everything that a doctor is supposed to be, not just from the medical point of view, but from the personal point of view. And what I want to do tonight is share our story and tell you how close we've become because of it. He is truly a brother to me. Obviously, everyone here has been inducted by someone of their own culture. We are brothers, so it's our culture. I'm Italian, he's Indian, but I feel closer to him than I do almost anyone else in the world. So 4 years ago, my wife was diagnosed, many years ago, diagnosed with an interstitial lung disease, which is an autoimmune problem that eventually deteriorates your lungs. And we were introduced to Dr. Mehta and asked him to take care of her. And the first thing he said was, "That is one of the greatest honors of my life, that you've asked me to take care of your wife." Now, how many doctors say that to you shortly after you met them? And you would think maybe that's a line, right? But it's what he really believes, and it's true. We then went through the process of getting on the lung transplant list under his great guidance and leadership. We then got our name on the list. We had 2 calls where they call you up and say, "Come to the hospital." They prepared us, and at the last moment they say, "Sorry, the lungs today aren't going to work." Well, this is where this man jumps right into this fray and says, "You know what? It wasn't meant to be. There are better lungs for you coming." He knows what to say. He knows how to prepare you. He knows how to take care of you, just not from the medical, but from the heart. And there's nobody better in the world I've ever seen than this man doing it. So long story short, we finally get our lungs. November 17th, we get the call. He calls us and says, "Report to the hospital at 10 o'clock at night." We get there. Lori's prepped. 1:30 in the morning, they say it's a go. She gets rolled into the operating room at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my son showed up to be with me because it's a long wait. That's a long operation. She was probably going to get out at noon, but we were waiting the whole time. So at about 8 o'clock, who comes sauntering into the waiting room but Dr. Atul Mehta. And he walks right up to my son, and he said, "Is this your son?" And I said, "It is." He goes, "Thank God he looks like your wife." Which is exactly what needed to be said at that moment in time because of all the pressure and all the angst that you're feeling. And he did that throughout the whole thing. And he's been there, our guardian angel, this whole time. So when I say to you, everyone up here is so deserving, but this man saves lives. He saves families. He kept me and the love of my life together for how many more years we don't know, but we're blessed and thankful for every day we have. And so I can't tell you how much I love him and care for him, but he is so deserving of this reward, and he's so well represented here tonight by his Indian representatives and friends, but this friend will be his brother forever. So with great pleasure and honor, I want to welcome Dr. Atul Mehta to the International Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Rick. It's so humbling. This is not about me. This is about Cleveland. This is about our community. But before I begin, I want to thank Ashok Pradhan, Paramjit Singh sir, and Monty Ahuja for nominating me for this recognition. You know, until yesterday, I was kind of curious about this Cleveland International Hall of Fame Award recognition. But today, this evening, I understand it a little bit better. Let me tell you about the entire award. Let me break it up in different words. The first word is Cleveland. And I think that is the best place in the whole world. I'm sorry, my sister is here, my brother-in-law is here, my other sister is here, and my other brother-in-law is here. They are from out of town, but guys, Cleveland is the best city in the world. It is not about the city, it is about the people whom we met in this community. Let me start about the city. 2 of my 3 kids were born in this city. 2 of my girls became lawyers in this city. All my kids found their spouses in this city. What more I can ask for? But let me tell you, my kids, they all went to public school, Cleveland Public Schools, Orange Public Schools, and they met a teacher. She taught them value of their lives. Not only that she was their teacher, but she was the presbyter, she was the priest for the 2 of my girls who got married and blessed them as well at that particular time. And how many parents get this kind of privilege to have a teacher marrying their kids? And that is what happened. I told you about my kids were born here. Just a few weeks ago, my 4th granddaughter was born in the city of Cleveland. As usual, I was traveling. I was in India. My wife was in California, looking after my 3 other granddaughters. And this was indeed a very difficult pregnancy. She delivered at 34 weeks. We were away. We found an obstetrician. Not only that she served as a physician, but she served as a proxy parent for my daughter and my son-in-law, making most difficult decisions of our lives. That is what Cleveland is all about, and that is what this community is all about. Fortunately, my 2-month-old granddaughter is also in this audience celebrating this particular occasion. Also, Cleveland offers the best health care in the whole world. And I'm not going to introduce you my patients who have come all the way from India to the Cleveland Clinic. But let me tell you that physicians who are here with me from Cleveland Clinic, it is just an amazing place. I'm working there for the last 37 years, and that's not even important. My father had 8 surgeries performed at the Cleveland Clinic. 2 by Toby Cosgrove, 1 by Victor Fazio. You may have heard those names. And my father lived up to year 91. My mother was cared at the Cleveland Clinic, and she lived up to 93 years old. With that calculations, I'm going to be 105, and my wife is going to be 125 years of age, because they care for her better than they care for me. So that is what the Cleveland Clinic is about. And let me tell you, my friends have heard this thing over and over and over again, but I'm so proud to say that I am the true Cleveland Indian, not LeBron James. The next word in this award is international. And one of my friends who is in the audience, he writes Oxford Dictionary that I know. This word international to me is very intriguing. You know, that means foreign, that means different, and it is a very durable word. You know, it lasts for generations. My son is in election bid as a state representative for the city of Cleveland, and both of us take this word very seriously. The word international is our inspiration, and I hope it is your inspiration as well. I'm very proud to get this international recognition. And lastly, Hall of Fame. Before I came here, I always thought that Hall of Fame is for athletes, you know, or it is like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or Jim Thome would get into this, or Mike Smith will get into the Hall of Fame, you know, one of my favorite players from Philadelphia Phillies. But I would like to thank Deborah for making this Hall of Fame for a common person or a common man like myself. I'm nothing more than a common individual, and I appreciate this opportunity to serve the community. And last but not the least, Rick, Lori, you gave me your name. You included me in your family. And once again, you included this common man into your culture, and I truly appreciate it. I was just performing my civic duty. That's all I did. It was my honor when you asked me to take care of you. It's what I have learned from you. It's very simple, and some of my patients are here in the audience, is that you cannot heal the body. You cannot heal the body without touching the soul. And that is what I hope to continue doing that. I appreciate the opportunity. Once again, I thank my entire Cleveland family, my entire Cleveland community for the opportunity for being here, and I sincerely hope that my last 37 years of contributions are only worth your kindness. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much.
I'm back. Abby's many years of service require him to have 2 inductors. If they could come up now, I'd appreciate it. One is his son, Michael Minna. He's the Vice President of Analytics and Portfolio Management at PNC Financial. Michael, come on up. And he's also a speculative fiction author. The other is Pierre Bijani. Pierre is the publisher of Profile News, which is the largest Arabic English newspaper in all of Ohio. That's huge. He's also Abby's successor as president of Cameo and other groups. It's my pleasure to introduce first Pierre Bijani.
I thought I would come second. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great time. I think we had a great lineup here tonight. And I really want to thank from the bottom of my heart the Hansen family. Well, let's give them a big hand up for Dan, Debbie, and Mama Hansen. Where is she? Thank you so much for what you do to the international community. Thank you so much for this International Hall of Fame. You guys are a legendary in our community, and God bless you for being involved so much. My name is Pierre Bijani, as you have mentioned, they have mentioned, and I am the president of the Cleveland American Middle East Organization, known as Cameo, and the chairman of the board of the American Lebanese Community Council and the Lebanese Cultural Garden. Also, we are affiliated with the World Lebanese Cultural Union. I want to congratulate our dear friends inducted here tonight. They mean so much to us. Judge Ralph Perkins Jr., Rocky, congratulations. And Sheila Crawford, past president of the Cultural Garden. Thank you for all you've done. What a privilege it is to be here inducting you, a leader, a philanthropist in the Lebanese community. Abby, as we say it in Arabic, Abdullah Mina. Abby grew up in Kifraya, Lebanon, a town located in the Bekaa Valley. He was one of 10 siblings, came to the US in 1956, initially living in Richmond, Virginia, where he attended college. And then, thank you to his lovely wife, Mona, she pursued him to relocate to Cleveland. Thank you, Mona. Abby is a pillar, not only to the Lebanese community, but to the whole Middle Eastern community. There are not enough words to describe this great man. It will take me forever to talk about him, but I will abbreviate as much as I can because I have 2 minutes only. He's a humble, gentle, kind, a man of knowledge, help, peace, and constantly striving for harmony in the community. I have known Abby for over 30 years. My first meeting with him was through Cameo. Abby was the longest serving president of Cameo, serving over 15 years. He has remained very much involved as a board member and a parliamentarian. He was also a former president of the Kirby Club. It's a Lebanese club in northern Ohio. Abby remained active in our Lebanese community, currently serving as a vice chairman and a board member of the American Lebanese Community Council and the Lebanese Cultural Garden. He is a devoted member of St. Elias Melkite Catholic Church, located in Brooklyn, where he served as a president of the council. Abi recently retired from his weekly Arabic radio broadcasting show, which was featured on WCSB for 21 years. Abi has selfishly served the community for decades, helping hundreds of people with immigration paperwork and translation services. His involvement runs so deep into the community, as he had helped countless people facilitate the process of coming to the US, finding them employment, and transforming people from the old country and assimilating them to life in the United States of America. He is a friend, a mentor, and confidant, not only to me, but to countless others. Abi has been married to his wife Mona for 55 years. They have 2 children, Michael is here, and Dorothy, and 3 grandchildren. Abi, you are one of the special select few in the Cleveland community to be chosen as an inductee to the International Hall of Fame. You are an example we all strive to emulate. Congratulations on your induction. I present you Abi Mina. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll be reading Pierre's bio in Arabic. I'm kidding. I'm not nearly fluent enough. I was asked not to give a bio of my dad, which is a good thing since time is limited. Instead, I was asked to provide personal insight describing why I think he deserves this award. I've known Abi a long time. I have a lot of stories to tell, but I'm not going to do that either. But it's easy for me to answer why I think he deserves this award. This organization was established to recognize individuals who have made a valuable and lasting contribution to our multicultural city and region and to inspire a new generation of leaders. I'm glad that my dad is receiving this award because he's done that and more. From the time he came here as an international student from a country thousands of miles away, not knowing the language very well, until today when he's received more proclamations, citations, and recognitions than I can count for helping people, he's demonstrated again and again his commitment to helping others and improving our society. The professionalism he's shown has enhanced the reputation of the Lebanese community in everyone's eyes. He's well respected for his fairness and impartiality, as was his father before him. And it was from his example I learned fairness, love of our heritage, civic mindedness, love of God, love of family, and love of our great country. He's a Renaissance man and a peacemaker, and he's been of great service not just to the Lebanese community, but to our entire community. You know, I like statistics, Dad. I realized you've been in our country for 25% of its history. One quarter of the United States we've had you here, and we're all better off for it. I'm proud to be your son, and I thank the Cleveland International Hall of Fame for recognizing him this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abdullah Mina.
Thank you, son. Thank you, Pierre. Pierre would not let this opportunity go by without trying to sell you something. Camio's 48th anniversary is being celebrated this coming Friday, okay? Pierre, whenever I make it to the White House as president, you will be my speechwriter. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. You know, nice people, God bless America before I start anything else. And I really mean it when I say that. Look, we all came from different parts of the world, our families came from different parts of the world, and we assemble in peace and lovely camaraderie and so on. We're not afraid of the police or whatever it is. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, sir. I just, a couple of years ago, they told me I have spinal stenosis. I had no idea what the heck is that. So that's why I carry the cane with me, because I'm coward when it comes to surgeries and all that stuff. Okay, that's how it is. And God bless them here. They told me, this is not a biography, Abby. It's just some anecdotes. 3 minutes. I said, 3 minutes. I can tell you my name in 3 minutes. Anyhow, I want to thank all the committees and everyone who is involved in this great endeavor. Cleveland is great, as the doctor mentioned, and allow me to read a small paragraph that I received from the president of my university, University of Richmond, Virginia. I had no idea I knew about that stuff. And it came to my house last Saturday. He said, "Dear Abby, I write with immense pride to congratulate you on being inducted into the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. I'm so pleased that this honor has been bestowed upon you, and I'm grateful that your commitment to diversity and inclusion has strengthened the multicultural vibrancy of Cleveland." Some nice words like that from the president of the university. Among the people I want to thank also Mr. Mike Miller. Thank you very kindly, sir. And I want to thank all the friends that showed up here that came. We have relatives that came here from Virginia. We have good friends that came here from Canton, Ohio, from Akron, from Toledo, from all over the place. This means this organization is so credible. Thank you, Jeanette. Everybody, you know what? Next year, maybe we'll hold a meeting at Joe's Deli in Rocky River. Now we're talking. Really, I didn't want you to bother and come here this evening, but if you didn't show up, I would have felt bad too. So I don't know. Your presence here warms my heart. I appreciate that. Thank you, anything. I was born in a little town called Kafraya, which is now famous for the national drink, Ara, and wine. It reminds me always of Mayberry, of the, what's the name? Andy Griffith, thank you. Except they had what do you call it? Anyhow, we were not that good. But now the town is very prosperous. People are very well educated. I was there last September. You have to watch out from the cars when you cross the road. We're on a street exactly, I call it a road. And the town is very good. So in the 1950s, my uncle, Joe Mina from Newport News, Virginia, is my father's brother, and his daughter is here with us, and his grandson is here, and I appreciate their coming here. He visited us in Lebanon. He said, "Son, did you want to go to America as a student?" I said, give me time to think. About half a second, I said, "Of course." I thought you'd never ask, So I came here to Newport News for 1 year, then the University of Richmond, Virginia. A beautiful experience happened to me at the University of Richmond. A kid, college kid, Wayne Olive from Fredericksburg, Virginia, he and I had a disagreement, okay? Disagreement on the room. I wanted a single room and he wanted a single room and what have you. So we went to the dean, let the dean decide. We started talking. I found the guy, he said, hey, okay, man, he's a wonderful kid. I said, Wayne, you could have the room. He said, no, you could have it. No, I have it, you could have it. I was happy that I finally accepted, On the way out, he said, you know what, Abby, I don't know how you impressed me very well, and he impressed me really. He said, we just got engaged. Next year, when we get married, I would like for it to be my best man. I said, what will they do? What's the best man? I don't know. He said, between now and then we'll find out, and that's what happened. And we became friends, and he called me after 60 years or something like that from Texas. So this is a wonderful experience. Add to it the fact that I studied in Islamic schools, Catholic schools, Protestant schools, secular schools. If you thought there are two sides to every story, there are 5, 6, 7 sides to every story, I tell you. But I learned to respect them, love them dearly. All we have to do in life, most of the time, is just to listen to each other. Don't interrupt each other all the time. So I thought maybe conversations among us guys, people, should be like driving on the highway. There's a time to yield, a time to stop, but no reckless driving. Anyhow, at the University of Richmond, I really got involved in everything, in student government and so on, in the newspaper. I became editor of the literary newspaper. It's called The Messenger. I had some proclivity, I got to tell you this with all honesty, with all humility, to writing and this in Arabic. I love Arabic writing. In English, I'm not doing too bad, except when I came back here, I lost my southern Lebanese accent, adopted the Cleveland accent again. I got to Cleveland. By the way, I wanted to live in Virginia. We got married, me and my wife Mona, been married for 55 years, as Pierre mentioned. That was a miserable year for the weather. What should I do? We got married in November. I said, honey, we'll go to Virginia. She said, let's try it for a year, hon. If you don't like it, we'll go back. And I'm still trying it since 1963. So anyhow, I applied for a job because some of you, if you read it, I worked for Blue Cross. I applied for a job. I answered an ad in the paper. It says, savings and investment. Hey, I said, that's a nice and clean job. I had no idea it's insurance they're talking about. They gave us something to memorize. Until about maybe 3 weeks after that, I figured, what the heck, this is insurance. I don't want insurance. Anyhow, I settled into it because I don't like to move around. So Pierre mentioned about Cameo, Cleveland American Middle East Organization. I got involved in that. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details. And I love America so much. It bothered me from the college days to see somebody who can spend years here in America and they have no idea what America is all about, really. I'm not a scholar about American history, but I studied American history very well. And through Cameo, I started telling the people in our meetings and wherever I go, if you're planning to stay here, it's very simple. You're planning to stay in this country here, you should be a citizen. And I teach you to become a citizen. What I teach them? In English and Arabic. And when my radio program came along, I started teaching them that on the radio. The questions and the answers, and every time I put a little bit of history in it so that it soaks in their head. They appreciated that very much. That's why the immigration people gave me a little bit of a citation for that. and I also appreciate that. And for one thing, I know people don't vote sometimes. So we're almost done, folks, because they don't know how. They're afraid of that machine. We either rented, one of our members rented or bought or did something with a voting machine, and we took it during our picnic. And I tell the people, don't be afraid. I was afraid of it too. Nobody's going to bother you. You put this paper right here. You wanted to talk to you wanted to vote to Tom. You push this button here to talk to. You know, make it very easy for them. And that had a tremendous effect on the people. Again, when I had my radio show, the radio show, it was a learning instrument also. I love Arabic, I love English, I love history. I was telling them also the questions and answers, making it easy how to become a citizen. And many times I accompanied them to become a citizen. I love this nation, and we have to do whatever we can to keep it number one. So, and there's nothing bad about it, because there's no other nation in the world that did to the world as much good as this country did. And as I used to mention on the radio, where else would you rather live? Tell me. I believe if you tell me. I don't mean you go on vacation to this nation or that place. I mean to live all your life. Where would you rather live? Right here, in Cleveland, Ohio, sir, too, and in America. You're nice people. I want to also mention Father Naeem from my church. He's a friend and my pastor. Father, thank you for your help. And his mother also, Mrs. Samira. Thank you. So you're very kind. I appreciate that. I consider you my family also. All you have to do is look around. Beautiful faces, beautiful people. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. You've been very kind. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you kindly, sir. Thank you.
A bunch of goodies here, Eddie.
Oh, yes, sir. Dan, save them for me.
What's your name?
Okay, appreciate that.
Okay, 2 to go. Ralph J. Perk Jr. will be inducted by Congresswoman Mary Rose Okar. We all know Congresswoman Okar. She was a 2012 inductee in the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. And along with her distinguished public service work, she's well known for her work in peace and justice in Central America, the Middle East. She was a monitor for the Palestinian and Czechoslovakian elections. She attended Middle East peace signings at the White House. She flew with President Clinton on Air Force One to Syria after a peace agreement was signed. She was also national president of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, the ADC. So Congresswoman Okar will induct Judge Rocky Ralph Perk.
Well, I thank the Hansons and Mom as well, but I'm really inspired tonight, aren't you all? Isn't this terrific? And I know, with your exception, Doctor, I know everybody very well on this podium, and they're fabulous people. And to let a Democrat introduce a Republican like Ralph Perk shows what Cleveland's all about, that we need in Congress and the president and everybody else, right? Because we're good friends. Ralph Perk Jr. Do you know anybody who dislikes Ralph Perk Jr.? He's the most likable guy I know. He's got 5 brothers and 1 sister. His father was one of the absolute fabulous mayors of Cleveland. You know why I think that? Among other reasons. And I served in that era as a councilwoman. because he cared about the neighborhoods. And that's, I think we have to go a little bit back to that area. Well, he looks like his father, Mayor Perk, but don't forget, he's part Italian, and he's got that flair of his mother, Lucy, in him. Ralph has been, and I'm not going to go into details in the program, but he's been a Cleveland City Councilman. He's been elected mayor and president of the Cleveland Board of Education, and elected and served 13 years as a Cleveland municipal judge. He's won so many awards. If you want to know what they are, read the program, because it's fabulous. But Ralph is truly a nice guy and very unassuming. And he's not a loudmouth politician. I was going to say like some of us, but you wouldn't agree with me, right? But in any event, he's very much like his dad, who just did his job well. You know, I have a devotion to, where's Father Callahan? He's here. Father Callahan of Our Lady of Lourdes Parish, Ralph's Parish. Fabulous guy. But I have a devotion, she saved my life a couple times, to St. Teresa of the Little Flower. And one of the things she said that I think Ralph emulates is all you have to do is do simple things well. And that's what Ralph has done without the fanfare in trying to get the publicity and all that, that sometimes some people do. But like his mother, remember Lucy? How many of you remember Lucy? That's just, I mean, I know you remember Mayor Perk, the great one, but Lucy, who was very loyal, so loyal that she kept her bowling league commitment instead of going to the White House. I don't blame her. No, seriously. That White House would have been kind of interesting. That would have been fine. But Ralph is loyal also. He's loyal to his parish. Isn't he, Father? Loyal to his family. Loyal to his country. 2 offices where I saw him in action. I served in Cleveland City Council with Ralph. In council, he was not controversial. He was the only Republican in city council. His father was mayor. Never did I ever see Ralph play that up like, I got to get this, I get that. He wasn't like that at all. In fact, probably he had to work harder to get things from his father as mayor. He was a councilman of Slavic Village, one of my favorite neighborhoods that I was privileged to represent in Congress, and did not get a lot of perks, as I mentioned, from his father that I ever saw. You know, the Democratic members of City Council had a caucus, and we used to meet at Pat Joyce's on 9th Street. I don't know if you remember where Pat Joyce's was, right on the corner there. And we'd have George Forbes was the council president, and a fabulous guy who, by the way, got along very well with Ralph Perk, and they did great things together. But anyway, we had this caucus meeting, and we'd have a little bit of dinner, and I said to George, in my first term, naive self in public life, I said to George, you know, we're all here, there's only one person not here, Ralph Perk. Why isn't he invited? And George says, Mary Rose, he's a Republican. This is a Democratic caucus. But the fact is that Ralph was very, very well-liked and very cooperative with his colleagues. My second encounter as a public official, as a member of Congress now, was when Ralph, did you know that he was on the Cleveland Council Educational Board of Trustees for the city of Cleveland? Did anybody know that? He was president elected president by his colleagues when you could vote for the board, which I won't say my opinion, forget it. But anyway, Ralph was president, and I was in Congress. Ralph would come to Washington to lobby not only me, he'd go everywhere to ask for help for the Cleveland students and the Cleveland public school system. He was fabulous. And who knew that? Who knew that Ralph was doing that? Probably in many ways at his own expense. So he was caring and conscientious. Here's a Catholic kid who went to Catholic schools fighting for the public school system. And I think Ralph was absolutely terrific and very, very concerned about the children in our schools. And then he became a Cleveland municipal judge for 13 years. And I don't know, Rocky, do you still do that? As a retiree, you can come back, substitute, right. Well, I have asked people about Rocky's reputation in preparation for this, not that I didn't know, but they said he was the most balanced judge, which is what you need, and extraordinarily fair. He knew how to, the weight of the scales of justice was part of Ralph. And now, he's still active in lots of ways, but his father, Mayor Perk, founded something fabulous and probably a prelude in a way to what we are here tonight at the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. His father founded the American Nationalities Movement, which was very, very inclusive, very inclusive. And I love the way Mayor Perk used to describe the people of Cleveland. He called it a cultural mosaic of people. And that's who we are. I think there's 112 different ethnic groups in Cleveland, Ohio. And so Ralph was nominated to be president, third removed, for the American Nationality Movement by one of his father and Ralph's great friends, who is here tonight and was inducted, Irene Morrow, and she should stand up because she kept that program going. Where are you, Irene? Where's Irene Morrow? Somewhere way back there, okay. There she is, okay. Well, I asked Irene, I hope you don't mind, Ralph, why did you nominate Ralph Jr. to be president of the American Nationalities Movement when you retired from it after many years of service? And she said, it wasn't because he was the son of the mayor who founded it. It was because he always volunteered. He always took the pictures. He always wrote, she told me, you wrote the most beautiful letters to people. And I think that's a real talent as an old English teacher. So tonight, Judge Perk is honored by being inducted to the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. Ralph Perk Jr. is truly deserving, a very fine person. And you know what? He's a great guy. And I'm proud to know you, Ralph, and proud to be your friend, and proud to be, as we always have been, when we worked together, when we worked with your dad, nonpartisan. God bless you.
Thank you, Mary Rose. Certainly a fitting person to induct me into the International Hall of Fame, considering your history in Cleveland and all its nationalities and our nearly 50 years of friendship. My congratulations to each of my fellow inductees. I think I've been to all the inductions, and when I was in the audience, I'd look up there and I'd say, well, I could be up there. Now that I'm up here, I just hope that I'm worthy enough. My thanks to the Hansons and the people from the International Hall of Fame for this honor. I'd also like to recognize those who helped me along the way, starting with my wife, Kelly, the Assistant County Prosecutor. Unless she's there, she is. Our children, Vicki, who came all the way from Florida and recently earned her PhD in economics from USF. She has short sleeves on because she's from Florida. And Dan and his wife, Nicole, they're still here. Danielle and Chris and their daughter Mila, one of the youngest people here today, our granddaughter. And David, who they're representing because he's feels like he's overworked. And my brothers and sisters, Tommy, Kenny, Alan, and his wife Regina, Ricky and his wife Erin, and especially my sister Ginny, who has helped me with everything I and the family does or needs. Let me give her a special thank you. Of course, she's wearing one of my mother Lucy's shawls so that she'll be here as well. And my parents, Ralph and Lucy, who are both deceased, couldn't set a better example for parents in any generation in any city. Then, of course, there's my alternate mothers, my West Side mother, Irene Morrow, who has helped me with almost everything, either political or with the nationalities movement or volunteer groups. And without her, the movement wouldn't survive its 60 years that it has. And my East Side mother, Jane Sheets, who I met when I worked at the Board of Revision back in 1980 or 79, who's been a mentor to me for political and civic activities ever since. And my church of over 70 years, well, 73, but I hate to give away my age. Our Lady of Lourdes, founded by immigrants over 130 years ago, and now renewed by immigrants, represented today by a dozen parishioners headed by our pastor, the Irish pastor from the Czech parish who speaks Spanish. Father Joseph Callahan. It was Cleveland's nationalities that brought me through a successful career, from the various Czech organizations and churches, and especially the Polish Women's Association and their longtime leader, Francis Tesny, for getting me elected initially to council. Later, it was Cleveland Ethics Community who asked me to run to replace the retiring Ken Seminator on the Cleveland School Board to represent the nationalities. There's a 7-member board, and all the rest were Democrats, and twice, for some reason, they elected me president. I thought it was a punishment. And the entire American Nationalities movement, the officers, Valerie, who couldn't be here today due to illness, Terry Schmagala, why did Terry make it? Dr. Roos, the Hudaks, Bob Filippi, and my former law partner, Mark Miller, and the entire membership whose support helped me through my 13 years in service as judge till I retired. I am proud to be president of the Nationalities Movement, a group which was started primarily by people who came to America from oppressive totalitarian governments. They fled Nazi Germany and communist countries behind the Iron Curtain during and after the Second World War. They came here for the religious and personal freedom which provide an unmatched opportunity to us due to the guarantees of our Constitution. In an unusual move, the director, Cecil B. DeMille, in the 1956 film The Ten Commandments, came out on stage and spoke to the significance of the story of Moses and Pharaoh. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an unusual subject, the birth of freedom, the story of Moses. The theme of this picture is whether man ought to be ruled by God's laws or whether they are to be ruled by the whims of a dictator like Ramses. Are men the property of the state or are they free souls under God? The same battle continues throughout the world today." Later, Ronald Reagan noted, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and passed on, or we will spend our sunset years telling our children's children what it was like in the United States when men were free. So let us not allow others to dictate what our children learn and know of America and history. Let's pass on the lessons of freedom and opportunity of America and its Constitution to our future generations, so we don't have to, again, learn the lessons of our country's founding and the reasons people undertook those hellish trips during and after World War II to come to America." Thank you very much.
Our final inductee of the night, Judge Ray Pianka, the late, will be inducted by Councilman Anthony Brancatelli and will be accepted by his wife, Karen. Ward 12 Councilman Anthony Brancatelli, he's been serving since 2005 and will forever be linked with Judge Pianka for what they did and what they championed during the national foreclosure crisis, 10, 11 years ago now. Yeah. Championed the fight for neighborhoods and people right here in Cleveland. He is the chairman of the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation. That's basically the county land bank. And what they do is they turn bad properties into good. They raise dangerous structures. They replace them with new development or community gardens. He is the grandson of Polish and Italian immigrants and has been a lifelong resident of Slavic Village. Councilman.
All right, y'all ready to go home, so The Indians are winning 4-0. Francisco Lindor hit a 2-run homer in Puerto Rico, so things are going well. And I want to be very clear. We're not just here for the inductees here. There's a number of great inductees. We're here for our children. We're here for the people who have to embrace our future. I am very proud to say my son thinks the world of Joe Simperman and Global Cleveland. I'm very proud to say that it's not just Nora and your wife and Maeve and Sam. It's for our children. This is our future. This is what's really important to us. So I told the folks in the housing court, I'm not going to look at them because I'll start crying, but it's really important to look at what's going on around our world. It's really important for us to embrace our past and celebrate our future. So when I look at what's going on around us, I can't help but look at the great things that are happening in our communities. I was told I only had 2 minutes to introduce our inductee, but Mr. Feliciano, you took 15 minutes. Come on. I mean, I could have done 3 versions of Light My Fire with that. And Debbie, thank you very much for the seating arrangements, because you kept Chief Ripka up here and you kept Council way in the back. So we understand, the separation of both those parties. But I want to thank Council President Kelly and Councilwoman Santana for coming out tonight to celebrate with us. And Chris Tanaka, thank you very much for coming out here tonight. Taiwan, Jordan, Colorado, California, now Cleveland. You've been evicted more than the housing court has ever sent anybody. This is pretty amazing. So, and Rocky and Ralph Perk, the politician with a capital P, nothing has anything to do with that, with the Republican Party. But let's just talk about your West Side mother, Irene Morrow. She started on the East Side. She was in Slavic Village. Come on, Irene, confess up. Roberta's out there. She's going to tell you she was originally in Slavic Village, so we know where she started from. And Joe Callahan, thank you very much for your presence here today. It's very important. So it's great to be here tonight and honoring Judge Ray Pianka. And certainly for Karen and Kirsten, I can't think of anybody else more to recognize for these kind of nationality movements. And so I did prepare a speech. I usually speak off the cuff, but I said I would not break down when I was doing this. So it's with my honor that I stand here today to induct Judge Ray Pianka into the Cleveland International Hall of Fame. But I also stand here with a profound sense of sadness, still bearing in the shock, as we all do, of his untimely passing. We're here not to mourn the loss of a great man. We're here to celebrate his accomplishments and give him the standing he deserves as an inductee into the Great Hall of Fame. I want to thank Dan and Debbie Hansen and all the board members for all of what they do for this wonderful event tonight. Ray Pianka was a model citizen who inspired us all to work that he did to boost our city, preserve our heritage, and stimulate its growth and development. As a grassroots community activist and a member of City Council, he organized neighborhood residents and fought for services and resources to keep our communities vibrant and safe. And Ray and I shared a lot of compassion and emotion around our Polish heritage. He's from Dobralice, Poland, and my family's from Poznan, Poland. Despite the Brancatelli name, I am right down the middle of Polish and Italian immigrants. And Ray would always debate with me when we would argue about ward boundaries, and Ed Ripka can share the stories with us. And he said, ward boundaries? I was in a country from Poland where we were about country boundaries, let alone ward boundaries. But Ray was always about public service. The New York Times writer, author, and filmmaker Alex Kotlowitz described him as a humble, a student of history, courageous, empathetic, filled with a sometimes corny sense of humor, and directed by a belief that life ought to be more fair. Ray was truly a man of compassion as well as passion. He had the passion for the city of Cleveland in which he lived his entire life, and he had compassion for those less fortunate, struggling to make a living for themselves and their families. As both a private citizen and a public official, Ray certainly made an impact. Growing up on Cleveland's near west side, he showed early signs of political leadership when he became the class president of West High School. Marilyn, can you bring that little package up here? I totally forgot to bring that up. So Marilyn Mushinsky and Chris Alvarado, who worked very closely with Ray, Ray started at a very young age. Yeah, that's the one. Bring it up. In 1973, Ray became a founder and the first executive director of Detroit Shoreway Community Development Corporation. A year later, he married his high school sweetheart, Karen Olson. And in 1985, at age 34, he became a city councilman representing the West Side neighborhoods. I had to bring this Plain Dealer article up. I'm not sure if anybody from the Plain Dealer is here, but when he was in 11, he fought about trees that were fell in his neighborhood from a storm, and he wanted those trees to be put back up. And he petitioned then Councilman Zone, not Matt Zone, but his dad, to get those trees replanted in our neighborhood. Councilman Matt Zone apologized he could not make it today, but he does recognize the fact that he petitioned his dad to say, get those trees put back up, and at age 11, he got that done. So, as a member of Council's Community and Economic Development Committee, Ray championed neighborhood development and innovative ways to preserve our city's historic buildings. And to be clear, if it wasn't for Ray, the Grand Capitol Theater and Gordon Square Arcade on West 65th in Detroit would not be standing today. That building was condemned and ready for the wrecking ball. As a historian who treasured the stories and backgrounds of nearly every street and structure in the city of Cleveland, Ray could not bear the thought of the wrecking ball in full swing against that historical arcade. And I tell a story that we can tell now because he's not with us and it won't get him in trouble. But he parked his van over a water vault to keep the water department from the city of Cleveland shutting the water off in that beautiful building to get those residents out of there. And he was one of those kind of folks who really stood up for the small folks. After serving 10 years on city council, Ray became Cleveland's municipal housing court judge, putting together a professional and dedicated staff to keep pressure on renegade landlords. Since 1996, he served as Cleveland's housing court judge. Ray ran up unopposed for judge in 2000, 2007, and 2013. While serving as judge, he sometimes sentenced slum landlords to live in house arrest in their own dilapidated properties, and he held big international banks and mortgage companies in contempt of court if they failed to show up in hearings for their slum landlords. As municipal housing court judge, he relentlessly dogged slum landlords and took on big-shot bankers involved in subprime mortgage schemes that in 1990s were ravaging our neighborhoods. Jim Rokakis, as a member of Cleveland City Council, helped to create the housing court, said that the role was tailor-made for Judge Pianka. So between all the programs that he has as housing clinics, landlord clinics, lead programs, rent deposits, he created a number of programs that today still stand as a model for our city programs. I do want to recognize Judge O'Leary and as many housing court folks who are here tonight. Please stand to be recognized for the great work that Judge O'Leary and all his housing courts are following under Judge Pianka. Please stand, the housing court members. His courage, his honesty, his vision affected positive change in our community, and we're all grateful to have been inspired by him. He once wrote, nothing that I have done or could do to serve my community is more important or more fulfilling than being housing court judge. Today, Ray still holds the distinction of being Cleveland's longest-serving housing court judge. And so I know I got 2 minutes, well, I left my phone up there. But there was my last message before Ray passed away about a property in East 66 in Collier, where he called me and said, you have to do something about this property. You have to be responsible. The city has to stand up. And after he passed away, that was my one long-standing goal. I didn't get to drive the tractor to bulldoze that property, but I understood how important it was to Ray and our communities and how it was important that we stood up for our neighborhoods. So as tough as he was, if a homeowner came in front of him with no financial means to correct their code violations, Ray took the mercy on the defendant and worked to find ways to fix up the house and help the homeowner to get financial stable. Ray was truly a man of compassion as well as passion. He had the passion for the city of Cleveland in which he lived his entire life, and a compassion for those less fortunate, struggling to make a living for themselves and their families. But Ray was known for something else. He was downright passionate for history. He had an incredible mind and could seemingly tell you everything about every single property in our neighborhoods and the city as well. Ray was highly successful in historic preservationists, which I know very well, as the many historic buildings in our community, he was constantly dogging about saying, how do we save these properties? Part of how Ray knew our community so well and the city so well was that he walked the streets. On any given day, Ray walked a number of miles, often with his wife, Karen, and side by side, they would walk our neighborhoods. Ray did indeed serve the community unselfishly with little fanfare. He has many awards on the good old Cleveland work ethic that built our city. I have a couple of awards that he has received over time. The 4 Eagle Awards from St. Stan's, which I'm proud to wear today, and as a Knight of Pulaski, which I'm proud to wear today. He was proud of his work, his family, and his Polish heritage. Author Alex Kotlowitz wrote about Ray Pianka, "He's our North Star. He's what we all should aspire to." And with that beautiful remark, I am humbly submit to you the induction of Raymond Pianka to the Cleveland International Hall of Fame and invite Karen and Kirsten Pianka to the stage.
Thank you, Councilman Brancatelli, for those touching words. We'd like to acknowledge and thank members of the Cleveland Municipal Housing Court who are here with us today. We are so sorry that my dad could not be here to accept this award. We miss his commitment to our neighborhoods, his vast knowledge of our city, and most of all, his compassion for Cleveland's people, all of Cleveland's people. We're honored to accept this award on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, this is what I want you to do now. Everyone get a glass. It could be water or whatever. And let's toast this amazing group of people. Let's raise a glass to Sister and Ray up in heaven and Rocky and Sheila and Abby and Doc. Congratulations on this well-deserved honor. Slancha, cheers, Nazdrovia, whatever you say. Here. Here's to you. Let's have a round of applause for the 2018 class. Two other things I want to say before we adjourn. One, I have a feeling, Chris, that if people tune in to Channel 19 News at 11 tonight, they just might see something. Is that pretty accurate? As you may have seen or know, Chris has been doing live shots throughout the evening. We really appreciate that. We appreciate him being an MC with us tonight. It brought a lot to it shows him being out in the community. That's who he is. Watch him. He's a good guy. He's one of us. He gets it. And we're really glad that you were here with us today. The other thing, we're running a little late, but Dr. Whale Curry told me a very important piece of information that is it 5 days, Doc? In 5 days, someone very special is celebrating his 90th birthday. So, Dick Pogue, happy birthday, happy 90th, everyone. Happy birthday, Dick. If you're interested in planning for the 10th anniversary of the Hall of Fame next year or the physical building for the Hall of Fame, please let us know, or any of the board members. You can start nominating people as of right now for next year's class. So we want to say thank you for coming. Congratulations to this wonderful group of people, and good night. We'll see you next year.